We are back here with Front Office Two Fridays, here with a special guest. Always excited to be on these, especially with my co-host Ryan. Ryan, how's everything going today?
Yeah, things are going good, Victor. Excited for another Front Office U Friday episode. Always love when you have guests that work in hockey. So we are excited for this podcast as well.
It works great because our guest today is Bre'Onna Raymo, Director of Group Sales at Grand Rapids Griffins of the AHL. How's it going today?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're doing well, and we're excited on the hockey side, especially. I know Ryan and I always, throughout the year, talk about the AHL, NHL, and who's going to
Mm.
get called up and everything. So I know on your position itself, you can kind of just dive into what you do as the director of group sales, and obviously what makes the Grand Rapids Griffins great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I run a team of three full-time staff and a couple interns. Group sales is pretty much anything 10 or more, and that kind of falls into a lot of buckets, right? So that's corporate, it's hospitality, it's fundraising, it's organizations, any of like the fun like theme nights or sub-theme nights that you guys might see, that you might not even realize. It's like a group sale, right? So my job is to just make sure that every game, every 36 games, we're able to execute quite a few groups. Every group is different. Nothing is really like a blanket fix for any one group. So it's always really fun. I always tell people it's kind of like if ticket sales and events like came together, had a baby, like that is the group sales world. So I love it. I've obviously been doing it for a while. I've always done it in Grand Rapids. I'm from Michigan originally, born and raised from the east side, and then came here for college. Took a couple internships with the Griffins, and then just stayed full time. So, yeah, it's been a great decade. I've been here for 10 years.
Pretty incredible to hear that. I know a lot of our guests, they've kind of moved around and stuff, but the fact that you can be able to be with the franchise for as long as you are, as well as continue to flourish on that side is pretty incredible. And having a team to be able to manage, I think a lot of people are like, oh, I want to be a manager, and then they realize like, oh man, it's kind of hard to do that. So I'm kind of curious on that sense, like what do you kind of pride yourself when it comes to being a manager to help obviously these young individuals, start their careers?
Yeah. A couple of things, right? I'm not that much farther removed, right, from where kind of like they started. I also did quite literally every single step of our ladder, if you will, right? So there's not much that they're doing that I haven't already done, right? So that I think that is helpful. I also just I kind of pride myself in being really good with people and like reading people and knowing, what they enjoy out of a manager, what they don't enjoy, what motivates them, what doesn't, what they want in terms of like any type of acknowledgement. I actually, which is crazy, I a lot of my crew is pretty introverted like naturally, so they're not really into like the attaboys that some other people are, right? So it's just like knowing those little things, right? Like what about their day makes them want to come to the office? Like what time of year is the busiest for them? When can I let up a little bit and just know that like, hey, they have it? And when do I need to like press in a little bit more to be like, okay, like let's try a little bit harder in this segment or this sector for this game. So yeah, I've love people. And I think I'm pretty good at reading people, and so that's been a really fun part of the job. I don't know. I think growing up, I always thought management would be in my future, but being able to be a part of it and like lead a group for as long as I have, like, yeah, I would say like I am the type of boss that I probably always wanted. So, and that's all I can really ask for.
Pretty incredible to hear that reading people. I think that's probably the first time I think Ryan we've heard that through all the podcasts we've done is like, and you don't realize how important it is to read people as well as when it comes to groups, ticket sales and so on. So the fact that you were able to do that throughout your career and through those steps, moving up in the organization, I'm sure it's like, seeing that stuff is obviously pretty incredible. But I'm also curious, and it's a question I've been asking now for people on the ticket sales side. what was your first sale? Like, do you remember your first sale and like what did that feel? Because I know when I made my first sale, which was like $100, not a big deal, didn't get me to the goal, but I was just curious if you had a story of your first sale and like how, memorable it was.
So, man, I don't know if this was my first sale. It was definitely one of the first ones, but it was definitely my first phone call. And I remember, so I was in inside sales, right? So basically, for anyone who doesn't know, it's like you're an intern, right? And so I had like very little training on the phone. Like it was probably like maybe a weekend, and they were like, "We're not going to worry about that for her right now. Let's just see if she can send emails, if that works." But I had a phone. Like the phone was right there, and the phone was used like that. Where I sat is where every single intern, inside sales rep had sat in the past. So obviously the number was out there, and so all of a sudden my phone rings, and it's just to my line. It's not a call in or it's not like a group call in. And I remember I just looked at it and I go, "Well, what do I do?" And the two reps that were full time at the time, they were like, "You answer it, you dummy." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I was allowed, right?" So I remember I picked up the phone and he kept asking for the girl who was the inside sales last year. And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, she doesn't work here anymore. Like, can I help you?" And he just like would not stop asking for her. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Yeah, so I don't know how many more times I can say, like, she's not here." I was like, "I am happy to answer any questions that you have." And I remember, like, I think I blacked out a little bit because I was like so afraid. But what I do remember is that what he was asking me, I pretty much only knew like the pricing, so it was like on the wall next to me. He'd asked about like holding seats and what that looked like and when he had to pay, and those are things they had not covered with me yet. And so I was like, "You know what? All great questions. Let me get back with you." I got his phone number, I got his email, his contact, and I hung up the phone and I was like, "What just happened?" And they were like, "That's great." Right? Like they were just like, "No big deal," which now as someone who has done that, has walked through people with their phone calls, it was fine. But in the moment when you've never had to be like on a corporate call, you know what I mean? Like I had jobs in the past, like, but like you have an organization behind your name. I don't want to look stupid. And he was kind of coming in hot anyway. So it was just a very interesting situation. So I don't, like I said, I'm not sure if that was my very first call, but it had to have been one of my first. And I feel like that was like very much like a sink or swim moment, which pretty much describes my entire career, honestly, if I think about it. And it worked out well. So here we are.
Very unique. It's funny too to hear that like they're demanding the person there, like, hey, they're not here, they're not going to be coming back. Like it's pretty clear at this point, and the fact that
Right.
you're like, I can, answer any question. Like maybe pricing right now is the only thing I have in front of my docket, but I think
Right.
something you brought up too is the fact that like it's okay if you don't know the answer in the inside sales side, and I think that's probably what I assume, if I, agree, is you probably learned that right then.
Oh yeah. I mean, I was not going to give an answer to something that was wrong, right? That's even worse than just telling them, "Hey, I don't know." Which is what I literally tell my staff now. I'm like, if you don't know, don't make it up. Because that's going to make someone's life back here 10 times harder.
Exactly. I like that. Just thinking about that in general. It's like if you don't know anything, like best to just be like, hey, I have no clue how to answer that. Let me get back to you. And then it makes it
Yeah.
look better because you're like, all right, well, yeah, that first phone call for you went, hey, probably went as crazy as you thought it would be in a way where they're like trying to get you off the phone to someone else and you held your ground. So like, looking at that is pretty incredible. And, moving kind of back to the college side here and transitioning there, he had a chance, obviously, to go to Grand Valley State University.
Mm-hmm.
We're always curious on kind of like what led to that decision, because college, as we all know, is really kind of where you start your career, and it's going to be where you start your, essentially, where you want to work and everything as well.
Yeah. Great question. Yeah. So I came to Grand Valley for a couple different reasons. My sister is 4 years older than me. She had come to Grand Valley, so that was helpful. And at the time, I didn't even know sports was a job. I was going into speech pathology was my technical major. And they had just got a program, and Grand Valley's got like a very pretty downtown campus as well. And there's like a health science campus, and I'm all about the aesthetics. I was like, yes, that. Um, and so, yeah, I did that major for my first year. And then I quite soon realized, actually, I think it was, we had to watch a video of like an x-ray of someone like chewing and swallowing an apple. And for whatever reason that like freaked me out. And I was like, I'm out on this, whatever this is. But like, I didn't know like what, I was like, well, what else do I do? And I had a teacher, she was like, hey, you should join my program that I'm starting. It's called Health Information Management. And me being like dumb and 19, I was like, that sounds great because it's got management in the title. So I get into that program, and it's basically like billing and coding for insurance companies and hospitals, right? So I do that up until the middle of my junior year, and it gives you like a technology minor or something like that, information technology minor, and I just hated it. And by junior year, like everyone is so excited, they're taking the classes that they want, like they're so into it, and I was like, oh, I hate this. Like, what am I doing wrong? And so I just remember, like, I called my dad, I just cried. I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this. And he was like, you can do whatever you want. Just stop crying. Like, he was like, I don't know what to do with this. So, so I ended up doing some research, talked to some college students, talked to some advisors, ended up going the communications route because it was pretty basic and I didn't want to be there forever. I was already a junior. And at the time, this sounds like so weird, but I was watching, this is like before TikTok, like even really before like what we now know as Instagram, right? Instagram was just like weird filters on photos. But like YouTube was still a thing. And so I'd spent a lot of time watching like these Ellen interviews just to like dissociate, kill time, whatever you want to call it. And I just kept thinking, oh my gosh, like wouldn't it be cool to work like on a team in something like bigger, right? Like an Ellen or like anything along like entertainment. Like that would be awesome. And so that was kind of what was sticking into my head when I was switching my major. And so I remember I had asked my advisor, I was like, hey, like, if I really want to like work in entertainment, is this going to get me there? And she's like, maybe. She's like, it could also get you a job at McDonald's. Like, it literally depends on what you do with it. And I was like, okay. So then right after that is when I like panic applied for like all internships. And which is why I had like, I think like 4 before I graduated. Because I was like, I am not going to do this and look like an idiot. And again, it worked out. So
Working out is huge, right? Especially when you look at the story and the path to get there. Like I think sometimes we have to like stop and think of where we came from and just like see the journey because I think we always forget like it was tough. Like I can imagine for you the coding part, just me thinking about that. I know Ryan already knows with me when it comes to numbers, it's a tough slope for me. So like the fact that you're able to do that, but then also like they're like, oh well, you can get a communications, major, but you could also work at McDonald's with it, right? Like it has different areas. And I think that's something that I never even thought about when it comes to communications. Like honestly, it's really based off how you make, of it and the fact that you did
100%.
all the internships, right?
100%. Yeah.
And so that's, for us and for students listening, like that's huge to realize like you can do the bare minimum. And I know we all have people that were in our class that did bare minimum and they're not working the jobs they wanted to work in necessarily. And the fact that you're able to, do internships, you're like, I'm just gonna do 4. Like, why not more and get that experience?
Yeah. And well, and I remember, so I interned with the Griffins twice. And the first one was like a really basic entry level position. Game night internship is what it was called. You literally just work game nights. And then the second one, I wasn't even going to do, that was the sales one. And my old boss, my internship boss, the first time, he was like, okay, but like, why wouldn't you do it? I was like, sales is scummy and I don't want to do it. Like, I don't want to be like an old cars, like, like a used car salesman. I don't want to do that. And he's like, okay, a couple things. This is different. And number 2, do it for a year. And if you hate it, at least you know you hate it. But like, you still have one more semester left. And what are you going to do with it? And I was like, okay, you're right. So I applied and I got it. And shocking, loved it, right? Because it was people, it was planning, it was behind the scenes, like loved it. And this is like coming from me, and this is what I tell people all the time, like we were not a big sport, like we enjoyed sports, right? Like as a family, I would not say we were like super avid fans that like went to games by any means, right? Like my dad's a big Lions guy, big Tigers guy. But we weren't like going to games, right? Like we were just watching them. And I more so was just kind of like watching them just to be a part of like the family gathering. Like I wasn't watching them because I was invested. Like my family owns a restaurant. Like we're very Italian. So that was kind of like where I grew up. Like I grew up, I wasn't a sports kid. I was a band kid, but I was a really competitive band kid, if you can believe it. That's even a thing. It is. And so that was my world. So a lot of the times when I talk to, because I still obviously hire for internships, I hire for full time, and I will get a lot of kids that are like, oh my gosh, I love sports. And what I always tell them is like, that is like not a good enough reason to work in sports because here's the deal, like you aren't watching the game. Like most days, I have no idea what's going on. I didn't see the fight. I didn't see any of the goals, right? Like I was talking to customers. I was putting out fires. Like I was like running back and forth from my office to the concourse, trying to make sure someone got their giveaway. I was worried about putting a big flag during intermission, right? Like, so I tell people all the time, I'm like, do not work for a team if your goal is just to watch the games. Become a season ticket member. If you're going to do that, just like get a 10 pack, get a 20 pack, and call it a day. Because you're going to resent it. That's not even me being mean. Like you will resent it if you work for a team that you just are a big fan of. You have to love the business side of it. And I just really did fall in love with like the business side of sports because it wasn't like selling cars or insurance or anything like that. Like you are selling this like whole package experience. And for us, like we're such a pillar of Grand Rapids. Like how fun is that, right? Like most people know if they've never been to a Griffins game, they at least know what it is, right? And so yeah, so that's the part like I've always loved and still loved about it, and that's kind of what drew me to the internship to begin with.
I think it's crazy to think you're like, you brought in the band side, and I can tell you in general, that's like huge. And my brother did band. Was he good? He was mediocre. Obviously, he wasn't going to go pro for that, but it is something that like you see, colleges, high schools, gosh, middle schools even now that like they travel with all the teams. Like maybe you did not play sports, but you're with like the only reason why the sports team has like music for the most part is because the band's there trying to get everyone, invested in stuff. And so I think
Right.
that's cool. I have to ask, like, what position or like what not position, but what instrument did you play in band?
Yeah. And again, when I tell you, I was like our school's like poster child, which is like probably an embarrassing title to hold, but it's fine. So in marching band, I was our drum major, which if you don't know what that is like the person that's on the ladder that's like conducting, right? So you can do that starting your junior year. So junior, senior year, that's what I was doing. My main like primary instrument that I was playing in concert band was clarinet. And then I also joined our jazz band and I picked up tenor sax. So like I just loved it. And actually there was like a probably like most of my senior year, like I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be a band director. Like that's what I'm gonna do. And then I think like, I don't know, like 3/4 of the way through my senior year, I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. Like when I think in like 30 years, like, is this what I want to do? I just couldn't like positively say yes. And like the music ed program is so intense. Like you literally give up your life to like be a part of it. And I was like, I don't know if I love it that much. And even if I do, I think I'll hate it. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to put that on the back burner, which was really hard for me. Like, I was like, what do I mean, I'd been playing piano since I was 7. Like, so I was like, am I good at anything besides this? Which again, I did figure out I was, but like, that's just not something that they teach you. Like no one in high school was like, you'd be a great sales manager, Bre'Onna. Like no one was going to tell me that. Right. I had to figure that out for myself.
I think that's the most important though, figuring out what you're good at and what you're able to accomplish. I mean, looking like now just looking back at it, I'm sure you're just like thinking about like, man, like I was there just, so many, years ago and just like looking back to that kind of journey, like, oh, I mean, 30 or 40 years from now, like am I gonna be like basically the best musician in the world? Realistically, it's probably gonna be tough to
No.
and in this case, you already know, like no. But the fact that you're able to, take that experience and also like, I mean, you did a lot more than I mean, I did violin and I was like, man, this is one instrument is enough for me. So the fact that
That's
you're able
hard. Violin's hard. I could
to
never. Good
they,
for
they,
you.
well, you say that, but I was at the back of our violin, so like obviously it wasn't the standout one. There was a guy behind the curtain, so they could make sure they had the right people out there. But
That's so
it
funny.
kind of leads to like the question here, when it comes to like I'm sure it's a question you might ask as well as other directors and such when hiring people, but they always ask like what's something that sets you apart or what's the reason of why should we hire you versus someone else. So I'm curious on like what do you think your I guess thing that kind of stood out when you were doing the interviews and really got obviously the hiring managers to be like, yeah, you're the one that we want.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think their stakes were pretty low because when they first interviewed me, I was an intern. So it's like, if she sucks, we can get rid of her after a year. Um, but I think again, I've always been a pretty outgoing personality, right? Like, my dad's very funny. I feel like he takes credit for us all the time. He's like, "Oh, you're so successful because of me." But I think like we were just able, like from a young age, like I said, I've been working in a restaurant since I was 8. So, I just have really always been able to work a room, right? Like I've been able to hold conversations well. And kind of like, and especially when I was like, cause I think I was 21 when I got the internship. So like I was 21, but I don't think I acted like a 21-year-old, right? And so, I did, I wanted the job for what it was. Like I didn't want the job like I said, to like to for clout or to just like get closer to players or to be a part of to watch the games every week. Like I truly wanted like the experience, and I think they knew. Like I presented myself as like, hey, I will be your hardest worker, right? Like, and honestly, I don't even say this to sound like arrogant. They saw that. Like I did not. The way I even got my job like full time, I will never forget. We got knocked out of playoffs, and usually as an intern, once you get knocked out, you're done. Like you have no more job. And so I went in the next day to clean up my desk, and they called me into our conference room, and I just thought it was kind of like an exit interview thing. Like I didn't know, and they basically said like, "Hey, you did great. We really enjoyed having you. Um, we made a spot for you if you want it." And that was like huge, right? Like I was not expecting. I didn't know what I was going to do after the internship, but I did not think I'd be able to stay there. And I loved Grand Rapids, right? Like my sister still lived here. I wanted to be here. It wasn't going to be the end of the world if I didn't. I was going to figure it out, but I really did want to stay here. And so that's why I tell kids all the time. I'm like, your internships, you should work as if they're going to offer you a job. Even if they're not, you have no idea. They might make one for you. They made one for me. Like, I didn't know that. I just knew I wanted to work really hard because these people were eventually going to have to write me a letter of rec somewhere, right? Like, that was my mindset back then. Um, and I stand by that. Like, I just think, like, you, like, keep your head down and grind. Like, not saying, I don't want to be like, oh, kids these days, they don't know the meaning of hard work. But, like, I will say I was an adjunct at Grand Valley last semester. And, yeah, like, you could tell the kids that really wanted it and the kids that didn't, and that is going to come through like when they are applying for jobs and internships and what have you. So yeah, I just think like the soft skills are really what got me in, but then like the hard work is what kept me there.
Yeah, I think in general, when you think about it too, like, there's a lot of things that play a factor, right? And the fact that you were like, all right, as an intern, like last game, like you're just hoping, like, keep winning. Come on, like I can't control that.
Yeah,
Like, let's just keep on getting the dubs, and then there'll be a harder decision for management, and the fact that you remember of going to the office the next day and like, all right, well, now I got to figure out like, am I going to go in the restaurant business? Am I going to try to throw my name in the hat for another team in the
mm-hmm.
AHL or close by. So the fact that you're able to do that, but also like, hard work is something that everyone always says, I'm a hard worker, but you don't really know anyone who's a hard worker unless they are in the position as an intern, like you said. Like I I mean, unfortunately, I had people who were interns that they didn't put the work in and they obviously didn't get full-time positions. And
Exactly.
definitely a thing that even as managers, like you're looking at of like, hey, is this person really cut it in for sales? And if something triggers them, are they just going to step out and walk away? And so I
Hmm.
think, for you being able to know that now, obviously as a director, like it makes even more sense where it's like, all right, this person, if they have a lot of the same qualities in a way where they, basically you're mission of the organization of what you guys, believe in. So I think that's pretty incredible. And I'll pass it here to Ryan to talk more on that sports experience because it's pretty incredible what you've been able to accomplish in such a short time.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Appreciate that, Victor. And yeah, I mean, I think a lot of what you were kind of sharing there, Brianna, is oftentimes what we like asking about already. You shared about kind of your mindset in terms of your work ethic, advice you've gotten in treating your internships as if it's your job. And, I think that, you've hit on a lot of big things. But one area I want to kind of dig into next is kind of about some of the challenges associated with your job and kind of focusing on your job now as director of group sales. Because as you kind of shared, you worked all those different steps in the ladder up, your way up in the organization. But with where you're at now as that director of group sales, like what do you think is kind of the hardest part of your job and some of the bigger challenges you face on a yearly basis?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think a couple different things. Like every year, and actually, we just got done with our league meetings a couple days ago, and I feel like I say this every year, but like this year, I think I really mean it. Like I've made a lot of notes and a lot of post-its for my desk. Um, I think every year, right? Like it's easy to almost be like old hat about it, right? It's easy to be like, okay, well, we know we have 36 games. We know that like these certain games are going to look like this and these certain games are going to look like that. But really, it's like as a groups department, it is your job to like, you get to be like almost like the most fun department, right? Like you get to bring out like create the crazy nights that maybe don't make the promo schedule, but like you get to bring out like 200 of. I'm trying to think. So the thing that caught my eye really, and I was like, that's crazy, but I can't believe it worked. Chicago Wolves did a night this past year, it won them an award where they brought out like people who own funeral homes and morticians, and like it's like this crazy, crazy theme night, like sub theme night. And it got them like so many tickets, right? Which like who would ever think of that? Who would ever be like, you know what? We should invite out that group of people for a game. Um, and so really like that is what I want, right? Like I was like, I want to be weird. Like I think that's like my theme for the year. I'm like, let's get weird. Like let's throw everything at a wall, see what sticks. Yeah, we just get to have a lot of fun. So I think that's always a challenge of like successful and also creative, right? Because you can always like be like, oh yeah, we're gonna promote this thing, and then it sells not a lot of tickets. So then it's not really fun to talk about. So there's that. And then also, I feel like something that's just constantly in conversation, especially recently, is like the economy, right? And it's like, oh, okay, like, gas is $5 a gallon. Do people really have these disposable incomes to come to a Griffins game anymore, right? Like, or can they buy a group? Is maybe their company just laid a bunch of people off and they're like, hey, you know what? Like a game is not on our radar anymore. Which we get, like, I get it. So it's always just trying to make sure, like your pipeline is healthy, right? Even when the economy is like not great. Because what I will say too is I think a lot of the time people think that our success in sales is a correlation of the team, and it's absolutely not. Like we went 5 years without making playoffs, and those are some of our best selling years in groups that we had, right? And it's like people don't come to minor league for the team. They come for so many different things. Like your season ticket holders might come for the team, but like people come for the $2 beer and hot dogs. They come for, whatever crazy promotions going on that night, a Friends night, or like a Grateful Dead night, or Star Wars, or whatever it is, right? Um, people don't care who's on the roster, right? Some people do. Most people, I'd say the majority of the casual fan just want to come for a good time. And that's our job. That's our job to make sure like they do have a good time. And that like that kind of like the end score of the game doesn't matter. If they win, icing on the cake, 100% great. But for us, we're like, how can we still be successful even if the team on the ice isn't?
Yeah, that's awesome to hear about. And yeah, it's really cool too to hear you talk about getting inspiration from other teams and always kind of keeping your eyes and ears open with what others are doing, around the AHL, within your division, or across sports in general. And I think one thing you touched on there that I think is really impactful is how you share about how the fans often come for the experience in minor league sports. But I think you could even kind of say the same from a working standpoint. I know Victor and I have both worked in minor league sports in our careers, and we've gained a ton of value out of it. And, I think when we maybe were initially students and looking into options in sports, you kind of just know the pro sports teams better, but minor league sports can be an outstanding career option. And obviously, you're a living example of that, going from intern, working your way up, and now being a director of group sales. But what kind of value would you say you've gotten out of working with a smaller staff in the minor leagues, but, still being able to have a, long, successful career working within it?
Yeah, I tell people all the time, like minor league is such a great. It could be like if you want to end your career in minor league, I've seen people do that. But like, what a great starting off point, right? Like you wear so many hats. Whereas like in the majors, like you just that's not a thing, right? Like they have so many people on their dockets that are very specialized in what they do. And that's not a bad thing either. But in the minor league, like we like, yes, I'm the director of group sales, right? But like I also have like heavy influence in like our game ops, right? And like how all of that is functioning. Mainly because like if we sold it, we're more than likely like putting out into the ice. Um Also like marketing, right? We don't have like a marketing team, right? Like we have like a marketing person who also is our VP of sales, right? And then we have like some social media people, and then like one girl that was just hired on last year to like kind of help with the marketing side of it. But like prior to that, like anything marketing wise, like had to come from my brain. Like, okay, how do we get this out there? How do we get this to make sense? So it's like I have worn so many different hats all throughout ticket ops, right? Like who would think about ticket ops? Like I've been so involved in ticket operations because I had to. I had to figure out like what made sense because again, groups is not like a one size fit all. So it's like, are you doing mobile tickets? Are you doing print at home? How are they getting there? Okay, if they're not in their mobile account, how can we fix it, right? So I tell people all the time, start in a minor league. If you, some people don't like their inside sales classes all the time for major leagues, and that's fine. And I know people have worked their way up in those, and there is absolutely no issue with that at all. But like a minor league, you get like the full effect of like, hey, what do I like, what do I not like, and they give you a lot of freedom, which is what I always loved. Like I had a lot of freedom to kind of like truly be like, hey, does this work, hey, does that work, and you do learn a lot in your failures, right? And I have failed a lot, which I feel like people are always afraid to talk about. But I tell my staff all the time, I'm like, you think you messed up, listen about this, right? So, and it's not to say like mess ups are like should be common, but just to almost like destigmatize it of like, yeah, that wasn't great. Let's learn from it and like move on, right? So yeah, I love minor league. I think it's a great starting point. I had someone on my staff a couple years ago who he had worked for the K-Wings and he worked for us. And now he's with the Tennessee Titans and he is helping open their brand new stadium. Right. And he would 100% echo that minor league is like such a great starting point.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of touching on that because I definitely feel the same way in some of my personal experiences and even some of the stories you shared earlier, having your first phone call, kind of being afraid and unsure of what to say, but, saying, hey, I don't know, I'll get back to you is perfectly okay. And then, you eventually become a contributor and a leader within the team, feel valued and get to help out other people that now at the end of the day, it's like, hey, we just want to, see the team have success. It's not about any one individual too. And kind of to your point about making those mistakes, it is inevitable that it's going to happen to everybody, but how we kind of overcome, that adversity and respond to it often says more about our character than, the mistakes we make in the first place. So I think those are really important advice that we hit on a lot in this podcast, but, it's always a good reminder to anybody listening that, it's a good way to, learn about yourself and professionally develop along the way too. So one more area I wanted to hit on in relation to your experience, Bre'Onna, before we kind of dive into our Flash Friday segment to wrap up, is some of the impactful mentors that have kind of shaped your career to this point. Obviously, you've seen a lot of different people come and go within Grand Rapids during your time there, but even in just your career in general, who are some of those people that really kind of stand out as making a big impact on you as mentors that have shaped your career to this point?
Oh my gosh, what a good question. And I honestly don't think anyone's ever asked me that. Um, well, what I will say is that I feel like I had a lot of really great mentors at Grand Valley, specifically when I switched my major, just because I didn't know anything and I was so scared. And they all were, they understood that, but they also had the hindsight to be like, you're going to be okay. Right. And then like once I got in my actual job, right, like I feel like just like anyone who's ever been my boss, right? Like my very first internship boss, he was like the director of ticket ops at the time, right? Like he's the one who encouraged me to do the sales internship, right? And then my sales internship boss, right, who ended up being my real boss for a number of years, he taught me everything I knew, right? Like he also, him and I were very similar in the fact of like we love people and we're very charismatic and yeah, like he showed me that like hard work did pay off even if it didn't look like it at the time. And then to also kind of like the work hard play hard mentality, like I will never forget that. Like yeah, he was great. But and then again, as I like I mentioned before, I was an adjunct at Grand Valley, and so there are people that I may have only had a couple times in class or whatever, but they now look at me as a whole adult because I am, and they are allowing me to kind of be a mentor to people as we're coming up. So, yeah, I've been so fortunate to have really great people surrounding me throughout this entire process. Call it divine intervention or whatever you want to say, but yeah, I've always had someone in my corner through like every chapter of my career. And I'm really excited. Like I'll be 31 in a couple days. Like I'm really excited to figure out like what's next. And I don't know, right? Like I have no idea what's going to happen, but I just know that like I love a mentor. Always love a mentor. So if anyone knows a good mentor, you just let me know.
That's awesome to hear, and appreciate you kind of reflecting on some of those people kind of early on that really helped to shape you into a really awesome career that you've been able to have with the Griffins. So lost to hear it. Yeah, we honestly could probably talk for another hour on some of your experiences and advice because this has been an enjoyable conversation. But with that being said, I'm going to pass it back over to Victor. He's going to kind of get going for our Flash Friday segment. We do this with all our guests for the Front Ops U Friday episodes. Get to know Bre'Onna's personality a little bit better before we wrap things up. So Victor, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I'm happy to. I always like to go first because Brian always steals all my questions. So now it's impossible for that to happen this time. So my first question, you've been talking about the restaurant business, your family owning a restaurant and everything. I'd be curious if you were to own your own restaurant, what would the name be? And then what would your like traditional dish be at that restaurant?
What an unfair question. I feel like there's like a conflict of interest somewhere in all of this. Great question. What would I name it? I would probably name it, well, what would be kind of cool, and I don't know if this is possible. So my grandparents are from this really small island of Italy called Ponza. It's like literally 5 miles big. It is not very big at all. I think that would be a great name to kind of give like an homage to them. What would it be on the menu? To be fair, I don't know how much you guys are chronically online slash in like the food space. I have always loved a vodka sauce, and I feel like within the past like couple years, it has just been like booming. And I'm like, where were all of you back in 2008, right? Something with a vodka sauce, and also if you've never had a chicken cutlet, look it up. It's amazing. It's like the Italians' OG like protein bar. You can eat them hot, you can eat them cold. They're amazing. So probably something in a vodka sauce and a chicken cutlet.
Can't go wrong there. I went to Italy. I went to Italy when I was in orchestra, funny enough, and so definitely had my fair share. I will say the portion sizes over there much
Oh
little
yeah,
than I expected. So that was definitely a
100%.
cultural shock there. But the vodka sauce, I can say that's always a go-to. And unfortunately, I wasn't back in 2008. That's not what I was thinking. This is recently. I'm kind of on the same boat as these other people who are just jumping ship just because everyone else is. So.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
great to hear that. And then my last question here before I pass it to Ryan is NIL is pretty huge, as you can imagine, through all the sports and stuff. I'd be curious, what brand would you want to represent you essentially, and why?
Does it have to be a sports brand or could
It
it
can
be
be
anything?
any brand. We've gotten some interesting ones, so I was curious
Okay.
on what people have to say.
Listen, I have asked for years. I'm pretty sure it's in my Instagram. Um, I want to be sponsored by Tim Hortons so badly. Like when we were growing up, that was like our like me, my mom, my sister, like we would go, this is back when Tim Hortons would open till like 9 o'clock at night. We would go, we'd get ice caps and Timbits, and we would just like laugh about everything in life. And I feel like in the west side of the state, like there's pretty minimal Tim Hortons here. They're actually like we just lost a couple. RIP. And so I feel like I am like single handedly keeping the one by me alive. So I would really love Tim Hortons to sponsor me in any capacity. That would be great.
Well, Tim Hortons, if you do listen to this podcast, definitely reach out. We got an opportunity here for you, and to keep more open maybe in the future too, which would be great. So I'll pass it here to Ryan, but that was a great answer.
Yeah, love me some Timbits as well anytime I get a chance. So I respect that answer a lot. I would take that up as well. But my question, I'm gonna kind of flip the script on you a little bit here, Brianna. Let's say you're going to a game, you get to bring 10 of your friends. What would be that theme night? Like what would be the theme night of your choice if you could kind of pick? You've obviously seen your fair share, so you've got a big Rolodex of options to choose from, but you're no longer the one that's greeting the fans. You got someone there to greet you. What would be the theme night that you would want to attend a game with 10 of your friends?
Hmm. I love, I feel like the cop out answer is to say $2 beer and dog. So I'm not going to say that, but it is popular. What I will say is like, I'm a sucker for like an extra item, right? So like, I want to come to a game and then get something that maybe no one else is going to get. So, prime example, when I first started my career, I actually started our like alumni nights, and everyone at the time in the majors was doing a hat, like a baseball hat. And I was like, I'm not going to do that. Everyone keeps doing that. Also, no one's going to care about a Griffins baseball hat. But I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like my mom is like taking time to like buy me really nice like glass sets and stuff. And like, I don't use them. I use like tumblers and like random like pint glasses that I get from like whoever will give them to me, right? Like a true college frat boy. So I created these like co-branded like Griffins Grand Valley pint glasses, and honestly, coolest glass I've ever seen to this day. I'm so proud of them. It's like my most accomplished achievement in the Griffins. So yeah, I would totally make us all buy a package where we get something that is like very unique to us and our interests. So that is probably what I would do.
I like that. I like that answer a lot. That sounds like a great time. And then last one for me. So let's say now you're going out to dinner, Victor, painting the picture for the restaurant. You get to bring three other people to go to this restaurant, but I'm excluding family members. So I know you talked about your sister a little bit. You can have, dinner with your sister another night, but you can bring three people, dead or alive, doesn't matter, anybody all time. Who would be three people you would want to have a nice dinner with if you had the opportunity to?
Okay, great question. Gosh. All right. I think in real life, me and Kelly Clarkson, best friends, 100%. And then, man, I, okay. Yeah, me and Kelly Clarkson, best friends. I think the second person, probably because and I know he's gotten like some bad rap lately, but like, I've been to so many of his concerts, and I think he's so freaking funny. Justin Timberlake, like he's iconic. I know again, bad press, but like yeah. Back in my like Ellen YouTube days, I watched a lot of interviews with him. And then last, I don't know. I feel like I should pick someone who's not alive anymore. Gosh, maybe like I don't know. Let's like throw in a Frank Sinatra, man. I want to hear like all like the stories. Like I want to see, like all like the nitty gritty of his life, not just like the singles and things like that. I want to know like who he was like down with behind the scenes.
Wow, that I don't know how much eating is going to be happening. There's going to be a lot of singing going on at
I
that table, that's for
know.
sure. But those are some good choices. Kelly Clarkson, Since You've Been Gone, absolute classic. That's definitely a banger.
So,
Anytime I can play that during a hockey practice,
so
I will take the opportunity to do so. So I like that answer a lot. And it's been a ton of fun to get to chat with you, Tay, Brianna. And I know our listeners have gotten a lot of value out of it as well. So what would you say is the best way for our listeners to reach out to you if they have any follow-up questions of their own? They're interested in getting into working in group sales or in sports in general. What would be the best way for them to get in contact if they have any follow-up questions of their own?
yeah, honestly, my LinkedIn, like that's gonna be the easiest way. So you just look up my name, Bre'Onna Raymo, Grand Rapids Griffins. That's gonna be the best way. Go ahead and you can add me, send me a message. I do try my best to get back with people. It kind of depends on what part of the season I'm in. But yeah, always happy to answer any questions. I felt like I had so many questions coming up, and I really do try to like give that back to other college kids and things like that. So happy to be of any help wherever anyone's at, kind of like in their sports journey.
Very cool. We appreciate that. We'll also put the link to Brianna's LinkedIn in the description of this podcast. So definitely be sure to follow up and reach out, grow your network. It's a big reason that Victor and I wanted to start up this podcast to connect our listeners with people that are doing great things in the sports industry, working their way up from an intern to a director of group sales is no small feat. So Brianna would be a great resource, and we encourage you all to follow up. So thanks again to Brianna for joining us on this podcast. Thanks to Victor for hosting this one with me. And of course, to all the listeners for making it all the way through. And we'll be back again next Friday with a new Front Office U Friday episode. Take care, everybody.